The race baiting over Josh Allen winning the MVP last night has already started. Just check your mainstream sports channels today and you'll find it aplenty as they pit white people versus black people as usual. But the irony of this whining is that Josh Allen was actually a DEI MVP. The same system that so many of these same people have applauded and implemented in our society, because studies show, and I have a chart right here, that African American players make up over 53% of the league, followed by white players only making up 24.4%. So those people screaming racism against Lamar Jackson should actually be commending the voters on choosing the minority when it comes to the players. But they won't, because it's not truly about what is actually happening. It's about causing controversy to make us once again pissed off at each other by using race. Now, if you look back at the MVP award since 2010, it's actually been pretty even. There have been 8 white guys that have won it and 6 black or mixed guys that have won it. Now, if this award was inherently racist, those numbers would be a little more skewed to the white guys, right? So we can argue what should matter more, stats or overall value, but that's not what sports media is today, and it's sad as hell, because you can't scream a league is racist when the highest paid jobs in the league are owned by the race you say the league's racist against. Women lie, men lie, but numbers don't lie. I think a black guy said that. David Cone, former Michigan quarterback. Your thoughts? And there's the chart right there. You can see the chart. 53.3% African American. The exciting whites coming in at second, 24.4%. And then it really drops off. I mean, if you're Asian or Hispanic, it's tough.
Hey, life's rough out there.
Life's rough on these NFL streets.
Permission to keep it real with you, son?
Keep it real with you, son.
I don't care. I do not care. What's the song? Who sings that song?
I don't care.
I don't care. Like, it's amazing to me. That one. It's amazing to me. The older I get in life, I don't care what a room full of media members think about who's the best at something. The Academy Awards and who won an Oscar. Don't care anymore. I don't even recognize what the Grammys is anymore. The Heisman Trophy, the MVP, all these things that used to be a standard. I really don't care anymore. But since a lot of people do, let's just break it down and get fundamental since you asked the question. Here's a couple things for you guys. One, Lamar Jackson had better regular season stats in every category than Josh Allen, except for rushing touchdowns. You can see it on the screen right there. You can go down passing yards, more touchdowns, fewer INTs. Josh Allen did have more rushing touchdowns, though. Josh and Lamar faced off in the playoffs, and not only did Josh outperform him, but won the game. Okay, so that's important for people to keep in mind. The MVP vote takes place before the playoffs, though, and that's to not be unfair to guys who had a great regular season, may have been the most valuable to their team, but didn't make the playoffs. Okay, so that vote takes place prior to the playoffs, which you and I have an issue with that. We've talked about it before. And the same media members who vote on first team All-Pro vote on the MVP. Well, why is that important? Bring up that other graphic. That's important because Josh Allen is only the third player since the MVP has been voted on to win the MVP, but not be the first team
Didn't
All-Pro
9 guys
quarterback.
change their votes? That's what they said. Like 9 guys changed their votes from the All-Pro to the MVP, which that's a lot.
And no one's even talking about the biggest travesty of all this, which is Saquon Barkley didn't get a single first-place vote and got 1 second-place vote to be MVP, rushed for over 2,000 yards. That's what everyone should be talking about.
Well, you bring up the stats and you know, the race card side of this is just so exhausting, but they're going to keep doing it because people keep clicking on it, I guess. There's one stat that's not up there, and this is a regular season stat, and I think this is really important, and they never put them in there. I want you, Flaming Dragon, to try and guess, during the regular season, how many times did Lamar Jackson fumble, and how many of them did he lose?
I would say he fumbled 7 times.
Fumbled 8 times, and he lost 4 of them.
Okay.
How many times, Cone, did Josh Allen fumble in the regular season, and how many of them did he lose?
I'll say 3 and lost 2.
Fumbled once, didn't lose one.
Wow.
All regular season. Why don't we put interceptions up there? Now, Josh had 6 picks. Lamar had 4. But when you look at the total of who had more turnovers, and I'm not even talking about the playoff, where Lamar's fumble cost him bad. So we look at all these other stats, and I think 4,100, I've told y'all, I think Josh Allen should have won it because when the stats are decently close, I think you can make an argument for if I took this guy off this team, who's more valuable. Josh Allen is way more valuable to the Bills then Lamar Jackson is.
Should it be as simple as that? Should it be as simple as who played with Derrick Henry? Raise your hand. Who played with a generational running back?
Not that simple.
Who's more valuable to their team, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen?
Yeah, I
would say probably Josh Allen is.
You think so, though?
I do. I do.
A case could be made for that.
If you want to look at numbers, we can look at numbers, and the numbers for Josh Allen are closer to Patrick Mahomes than they are Lamar Jackson. If we're going to use that, if I'm going to say I think Josh is the MVP over Lamar, I'm going to say he's the MVP over Patrick. But again, I think you can make that distinction because stats should matter. I'm not saying stats shouldn't matter. If somebody has stats that are so incredible during the regular season that nobody else is even remotely close, then okay.
That was like Jaden Daniels when he won the Heisman, even though he's throwing to two first-round wide receivers.
And went 9-3.
Even though he's throwing to Malik.
Again, I think if the stats are close enough where there's somewhat of an argument, then the next thing you have to look at is what is the team around them and what is the value to that team. I think Josh Allen was the most valuable player in the league because the stats were close enough at the top, and to his team, without him, the Bills aren't even in a coma. They're dead. They're dead. They're doing an autopsy. They're not hooking him up to a ventilator. They're dead. Now, the Ravens wouldn't be what they were without Lamar, but I think the Ravens would go farther than the Bills if you took both quarterbacks off those teams.
Well, I think you can twist value in a lot of different ways, but I think the real problem is what's the criteria for the MVP? Mm-hmm. Right? That's the problem. We don't know. And it's not only the MVP, but it's the Heisman. Hell, it feels the MVP in the NBA. It feels like all of these awards you really don't have a criteria on, because even if we fight for Lamar Jackson this year, because from a stat standpoint, Lamar dominates the stats. I think Lamar was the best player in the NFL this year. If that's the definition, then give him the MVP. But then he shouldn't have won it last year, right? Because he didn't even have the best stats last year. Mm-hmm. And we had a guy, and probably the most egregious out of all of this is one guy had Lamar Jackson fourth.
Yes.
How does that happen? Fourth. How do you have that? How do you deserve that?
That's personal. That is a personal. I'm not saying it's racism, but that's personal.
Let me ask it to you like this. Forget the skin color and the races of the guys. If Lamar Jackson had 0 MVPs leading up to this season, and Josh Allen had 0 MVPs, and they had the exact same year, would they have given the MVP to Lamar Jackson? Is this more about, well, he's already got 2? Because that is a DEI thing.
Yeah, I hope not.
That is a DEI thing.
I hope not. I think you raise a valid point, but I really hope they don't look and say, well, because then it's not just DEI, it's a participation trophy.
Yes, that's what we said. Like, I thought Michael Jordan could win the MVP every year because he's the best player, even though maybe he didn't play as good as he did the year before, and Charles Barkley balled out.
So the definition of the MVP is messed up. Is it the best player or is it value? I mean, that's really the two things that collide. Josh Allen is a very important piece to the Bills. Joe Burrow is a very important piece to the Bengals. Patrick Mahomes is a very important piece to the Chiefs, just like Lamar Jackson is. But are you going to get blamed? Is Lamar going to get blamed for what the GM did?
No, and if you look back at last year, I mean, without Derrick Henry, not that the Ravens were awful, I think Lamar Jackson was more valuable to the Ravens last year than he was this year because you did add pieces around him. I know Zay Flowers got hurt at the end, but Zay Flowers was a year older. Isaiah Likely has come along. Seems to be kind of the heir apparent to Mark Andrews at tight end when Mark decides to hang it up. But I love having like structure, and this is what I hated about the college football playoff. We had really no solid, concrete thing to say, you know what, this is getting you in, this isn't getting you in. We had contradictions everywhere. I feel like with the MVP vote, there are contradictions.
I do want to say one last thing for the stat nerds because I alluded to this, but I just want them to know fully what I'm talking about. Josh Allen is the first player in 21 seasons to win the MVP without being selected first-team All-Pro, and that's since the MVP was handed out in 1957. The only other players to win the award despite not being named first-team All-Pro were John Elway in 1987 when Joe Montana was All-Pro, and Titans quarterback Steve McNair in 2003 when Peyton Manning was All-Pro. But remember, that was the year they shared an MVP, and we were wondering if that was going to happen.
And you know what? Again, I don't think it should be a normal and common thing to share MVPs, but last night, if they'd have said Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen were co-MVPs, this is one of the rare times where I would have been okay with it.
Well, that brings me up. I know we're over time here, but show them hugging after the game. This is what's most important for anyone who wants to try and, yes, please play that. This is after the playoff game when Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson went up and hugged each other.
Real recognize real, man.
Yeah. That's what's most important.
Real recognize real. Hey, what's up, YouTube? Do us a favor, man. Please hit that subscribe button, and we really, really appreciate it. We're going to live stream the Super Bowl from Mission Cigar and Social. Do not miss it. They're always a lot of fun.